Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Permanent Values, Part 8b, Knowledge, and we will continue exploring this aspect, knowledge or ilm, in the light of the Quran. These are the references, and this is our contact in case there is any query or question regarding this presentation or any of our previous presentations. A few general points to set the scene for this talk. Human intellect only has one path to follow in this finite physical life on earth. It has to follow the path of his own thought, defined and devised by its own intellect, which then leads to the other question. If there is only one choice for the human intellect, then why is he endowed with the traits of choice and intent? And this is an important point which we should keep in mind as students of the Quran, that if we have to just live under man-made system and there is no alternative to man-made system, then what is the point of giving us choice and intent? That means there is no choice. We are bound, we are forced to live under the man-made system in which we are brought up, where we are born. And presently man-made systems are in every country. So essentially these human beings do not have any other choice. If there is another choice, then what is that choice? And this is where the Quran comes in, because it provides us additional choice. Human beings learn through using their senses, experiences, education, and training as they live their physical life in the world. And we know about it that we experience life as we go through it, and we also carry out some experiments, we get education, we also learn through social interaction and through our own study as well and through our own observations. The knowledge so gained helps them to meet their needs under the man-made systems. However, all these human endeavors are with one aim in life, i.e. to live this physical life successfully. And what I've done over here is I have put inverted commas on that under man-made system, the definition of success is different from that success which the Quran defines for us. And then to die assuming that there is nothing more to this life. Allah, who created man, also provided the second choice, which relates to guidance through his revelation from time to time, and this revelation is now preserved in the Quran for all times. And that is something which should be given a very good position, should I say, in our consciousness, so that we realize, we all the time keep in mind that it is through the Quran that we get the second choice. Without the Quran, we do not have any choice under the man-made system. What is in the Quran and how it provides an alternative to the man-made systems is the aim of this platform under the auspices of Tolu Islam. We are striving to explore the detailed aspects of the knowledge of this choice noted in the Quran with a view to acquire a developed self in order to establish the system of Deen. So in the study of the Quran, we should always keep in mind that we are aiming for the system of Deen. So that is our objective as far as this word is concerned. Rest are all means to achieving that objective. That is, for example, the study of the man-made system and its limitations, and then convincing ourselves that the path which is given by the Quran is the correct path. Because unless we are convinced 100%, we will not get the best out of the study of the Quran. Without this aim in mind, the Quran does not reveal its purpose to us. Now over here, I'm sharing a schematic which I had shared about 10 years ago in another gathering, and I thought it is good to look through it, using the Quranic lens to view the world. And if we look at this, that here we are, and we are looking through the Quranic lens, and we see beyond this world. Not only this world, we can see beyond this world, because if we are living on this world, we will only see the planet itself, whereas the Quran is broadening our vision much beyond that. The human intellect looks at the world while living in one part of the planet. And we are very oriented physically to this planet. We are glued to this physically, and we are only confined within the society in which we are living. And as a result, without the Quran, our vision does not expand beyond the planet. We only look very geographically attached to that particular land, because physical beings, we do not go beyond that. The Quran exposes us to an expanded view of the world and the continuity of life beyond this world. So that is an important aspect as students of the Quran, to expand our vision, to be able to see the planet from outside and while living life on the planet itself. Now over here, there is another slide. I is changeless in an ocean of change and flux. And this is an important point to understand, that the I which we have, that is the sense of identity, it remains the same. We can still feel the same as we were 10 years old, and as we age, we still remain the same. So the continuity of sense of identity remains there all the time, and this is called I. And while we are having this permanence in terms of our sense of identity, everything around us in the world is changing. For example, day and night, the time comes and time goes. Weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and then the time to leave this place. Our body and brain all are aging, and that is another beauty, that while our brain is aging and the thoughts which brain is producing are not aging. Our thoughts don't grow old. So mind out of the brain is quite different entity. World is changing continuously, and we can see that politically, socially, economically, even boundaries are changing gradually. The countries which are existing today may not be there, let's say, in 100 years or 200 years. Man-made laws are continuously changing. While if we are following the permanent values, these don't change, but man-made laws are changing, and that is where the sense of identity comes in, that the sense of identity needs permanence. Our emotions, we will look into it slightly later. Relative values and beliefs, which are prevalent at the moment under man-made system. Science and technology is continuously changing, because as human beings are discovering more, the technology is moving forward. And in any case, under the capitalist system and market economy, these things keep changing at a very high rate. Universe changes with time, and we know it, that how galaxies are moving and planets are moving. So all these are also changing, and the changes are also taking place within each of these galaxies or each of these planets and these stellar bodies. Our emotions plus thoughts plus decisions plus experiences plus memory, all are changing as we live our life. Relationships, jobs, health, etc., everything. So from here we can see, and we can add more to this list, because these are just a glimpse of it which came to my mind. I just thought to share it here. Everything around ourselves is in flux, day-to-day living model under relative values. And we should keep in mind that there is a verse in Surah Ar-Rahman where Allah does not change. Anything related to Allah, that is of His being, does not change. And that is the beauty of getting guidance from the Quran. Now over here, what I had done sometimes back was that I took out these emotions which were mentioned in a number of papers on psychology. And over here I've said, how many do we have? And if we see over here from abrupt, accuse, achievement, adapt, agitate, and I went up to ignore, and then I left it there. It is just to get a glimpse of it. If we are interested, we can go to Google, and under that there is a site called Scholar, and we can download many papers on psychology and particularly on emotions, and we can figure out ourselves. And another interesting thing is that each of these emotions has its own shades. For example, if somebody is angry and annoyed, then anger is an emotion here, and one can be angry all his life, or he can be very angry or less angry or not at all angry. So these kind of observations we can make about others as well as our own behavior, our own conduct as well. Then the next is complicated to a simple model. And that is the beauty of life, is that when we look through the Quran, life becomes simpler as compared to when we are living life under the man-made system. For example, emotions over 3,000 with shades and scales varying in intensity from low to medium to very high. So that makes it very complicated, that each emotion has its shades, and we see all these shades displayed by human beings all around us and within our own families as well. Desires, these continuously arise, and some are conscious and some are not so conscious. For example, a desire may not exist for example, a new car, but the moment we see a new car, then a desire can arise within us. Same goes for food. We may not be hungry, but the moment we see some food, the desire can arise within us to consume that food. Significant others, and this is another important aspect of our living, that others affect us. They have certain expectations, they have opinions, they have attitudes, they have beliefs, and those affect us. For example, our children affect us, our parents affect us, our friends affect us, our relations, wives, spouses, all of them affect us. And this is something which we should observe, so that we know that what is affecting us and whether that expectation is realistic or not. And I'll give you a very interesting example, that if somebody is a doctor and she does not want to have children at this stage, her parents, her husband, her other relations might be expecting her to have a child, whereas she wants to first complete her, let's say she wants to become a consultant. And that is where then the conflicts start within human beings, that there are certain expectations others have with us and some expectations we have from our own self, and that is where the conflicts come in. Media also influences. For example, social media is influencing youth, and of course the main media as well, which is controlled by governments, also influence people's opinions. Education, institutional effects, secular and religious teachings, all these affect, and we are very well aware of that. Religious influences, including concepts of gods, superstitions, rituals. And when people say somebody is atheist, it does not mean that they don't have a belief. They also have a belief thinking that there is no God or there is no higher authority to control their life or to influence that. So we human beings' our mind cannot stay in vacuum. It is always filled with some kind of belief system. Society itself affects relatives, friends, colleagues, social contacts, customs, jobs, all these affect us. National influences, political, economic, social, psychological. Human role models, very important, conscious and not so conscious. Sometimes we can have more than one role model for us. So this is something also affects us. For example, children can have their parents as their role models. Parents can have their bosses as role models. Health issues, fears, vulnerabilities, deep down uncertainty, aging, all these affect us whether we want to admit it or not, whether we are conscious of it or not. But all these at least are residing in our subconsciousness. Death. Now, this is an important aspect of our life. We have gone through it before as well, but it's good to remind ourselves that it is a deadline in our subconscious. Whether we think whether the life goes beyond death or not, that is not an issue here. But being aware of death in our subconscious, it is always serves as a deadline. And that is why people, all this hustle bustle and competition in life is because of this, because there is a deadline waiting for us. And then I put down some question marks here that there may be more to it. Now, what I've done over here, I've drawn two paths, two opposite paths. In first path, where we are not guided, we have childhood plus adolescence, beliefs, attitudes, choices. And then we go through the process of trial and error in life. Because there is no guidance within us, it is the society in which we are brought up that affects our thinking. That environment is affecting us. The way we are brought up, the way our parents, our peers, and schools, education, colleges, universities, jobs, all those affect us. And then is experiencing life as it comes. It is at the mercy of man-made systems. And that is why human beings have different cultures, different customs, and because wherever they are living, those become their experience. Then is reality unknown as never discovered. Now, this is the state when we are not guided by the Quran. But if we take the guidance from the Quran, and the moment we take the guidance from the Quran, then we come out of this path and reality becomes known to us. And it all depends that how soon we come to terms with the reality of our own existence and the reality of Allah and His concept as given in the Quran and all those permanent values and divine attributes. So reality becomes known, permanent values, aim clearly becomes defined, companionship of Allah comes here, and companionship over here means that all those responsibilities which Allah wants us to carry out in the human world, we commit to that. We say, yes, we want to be part of this Jamaat of Mu'mineen to carry out all those responsibilities. So then different outlook and the path becomes totally different from the first path. While we are living with all these people, it does not mean that we go outside the planet and it is somewhere else, but the planet is our place of abode and we have to stay here and work it out by interacting with everyone around us. And then is use of intellect and reasoning, and that is the beauty of it, that intellect and reasoning is also used here in the first path, but it is within the limited domain. Over here it expands, and this point will become clear as we go through subsequent slides. And it is continuous guidance of the Quran. It must not cease. If it ceases, that means we have left this path and gone back to the previous path. Apply to your own self, compare and contrast with past and present to collective efforts. So this then becomes individual to a collective efforts. Then we join up with all those who are already on this path, and this is where Tolu Islam helps, because Tolu Islam is the only organization which is working towards the system of Deen. Two models of life strive to find reality, and effort is a must. We cannot get it by sitting at home and doing nothing. We have to make an effort. Now, the first slide on knowledge is, what does it mean for Allah to be Aleem? If Allah is uninformed about the matters about His own creation, then what sort of Allah can He be? This is why the description of Allah's knowledge is given in great detail and with great emphasis in the Quran. And this aspect will become clear as we go through the slides of today's presentation, that knowledge which is provided to us in the world, whether we are exposed to it or not as yet, all is coming from Allah, because Allah is Aleem, and that attribute we should keep in mind as we go through these slides. This is why the description of Allah's knowledge is given in great detail and with great emphasis in the Quran. And the reality is that the coordination and harmonization, organization and management of this system of the universe, which leaves intellectuals awestruck, can be done only by this being who has complete and full knowledge of everything, from a drop of water to the ocean, and from a tiny particle to the sun. Such knowledge in which there is not an iota of guesswork or conjecture, speculation or doubt. Sure knowledge and complete knowledge. Just as Allah's self is the most complete, in the same way His knowledge is also the completest. And I've taken it from the book, The Human Self and Allah. There's a lot more discussed over there. The Quran has described the comprehensiveness of Allah's knowledge in 3 words in such an all-inclusive way that as the human intellect continues to ponder on it, it becomes entranced, i.e., and of all things, He has complete knowledge. And that is the beauty of the Quran, that it helps us to keep expanding our horizon, and we gain more and more knowledge, and it is never going to end. Sustainability and continuity are contained in the word Aleemun, i.e., not this, that sometimes He has knowledge and at other times He does not. Rather, He has knowledge of everything at all times. These words are constantly repeated at various places in relation to different subjects with the aim of engraving them on man's heart. Next is continuing on the same theme. In Surah Al-Hadid, it is stated, He is the first and the last, the evident and the immanent, and He has full knowledge of all things. And this is something very important, because human beings wish to know that what was there when Allah was not there. And Quran has made it clear that He was always there. And then one also thinks that what it will be like if Allah is not there, He will be there all the time. So it is very reassuring knowledge to which when a moment is exposed, he becomes fully satisfied. And because we got a finite intellect, finite mind, we cannot understand someone who is infinite, who is eternal. So that is our limitation. But these things we should not leave for the moment, because some of these things maybe we are exposed to them, because life does not end with death. So this continuity of knowledge and gaining knowledge will continue beyond death. And the whole thing is that we have to satisfy ourselves that what is available to us, let us make use of that first and develop ourselves and come up to that level where we can establish the system of deen. The evident and the imminent, of course, that what is visible and what is not yet does not mean that these things are not there. And he has full knowledge of all things, because knowledge, he is the source of all knowledge. This same fact is stated in alternative words as follows: my Rabb comprehends in his knowledge all things. And over here I have highlighted Rabb because it is related to Rububiyat. That if we understand the purpose of our creation and start functioning or start following this path, then all things gradually start to make sense. And as our horizon of our consciousness expands, we learn more and more with the passage of time. Allah has knowledge of everything in the universe. In Surah Al Imran, it is stated, from Allah, verily nothing is hidden on earth or in the heavens, which means that Allah is present everywhere. And that means that we should be well confident that whatever we are doing, we are not alone in the universe. His laws are helping us. His own presence is also very reassuring psychologically. The same has been reiterated in these verses. At another place, the Quran states, who knows all the secrets in the heavens and the earth, which means that those secrets which haven't been discovered so far, these will be discovered at some point in time. That is why Allah is telling us that what is looking as a secret, as hidden, as concealed at this point in time from your intellect as well as your sight, if it is a physical thing, wait for it. Keep striving on this path, and at some point these things will come out. Because the whole point is to develop ourselves. And unless we strive to discover these things, we cannot develop ourselves. There's no living thing about whose affairs he is not aware. He knows the time and place of its definite abode and its temporary deposit. All is in a clear book, that is of Allah's knowledge. So a lot is covered in the Quran, and a lot is present in the book of nature, which we are supposed to work hard and find it out. Continuing on the same theme, knowledge of the manifestations of nature. He has knowledge of it all. He knows all that goes into the earth and all that comes out thereof, all that comes down from the sky and all that ascends thereto, and he is Rahim and Ghafoor. And that is the beauty of it, that all of this knowledge is for nourishment and development, for the growth of human beings, for if they make an effort on this path. And of course, there is the inbuilt protection in that once they follow this path. In Surah Al-An'am, it is stated, with him are the keys of the unseen, the treasures that none knows but he. He knows whatever there is on the earth and in the sea. And when Quran says that no one knows, means that you do not know as yet. If you keep making effort, you will know about it. And that is why these things are mentioned over here. We should never think that it means that we will never know it. That is a wrong conclusion. Not a leaf does fall, but with his knowledge. That is, everything follows his laws. There is not a grain in the darkness or depths of the earth, nor anything fresh or dry, green or withered, but is inscribed in a clear book of Allah's knowledge. That means all are following laws, and if we know the laws, we will know how all this outer world functions. Correct Iman in the divine attributes specifically influences the practical life of man. For example, Allah is all-knowing. He knows everything. Even if all human beings accept Iman in this divine attribute, He will still be all-knowing and all-aware, just as in that situation where not a single individual accepts Iman in this fact. He was even all-knowing and all-aware at that time when no human being existed. Hence, the Iman of a human being has no effect whatsoever on Allah's attributes. from this, it is his own life which is reformed. And that should be the focus of ours, that it is in our own interest. This is the way the system is meant to function, because we are creation of Allah, and He has made this system in a way so that we utilize this system within His guidance so that we can get the best from our own self. That is, we bring out our latent potentials. His own point of view is transformed, and a change occurs in his mentality. Another slide on the same aspect. If it is a strong conviction of some individual that, leaving aside the tangible deeds of life, Allah is cognizant of even the inner intentions of his heart, and together with this, he also has Iman in this fact that no deed can remain without a consequence, then imagine to what extent his life will be under the obedience of the divine laws. And that is important, that if we become well aware and positively well aware that whatever we are doing, we are accountable for whatever we do, and we should try to get the best from our latent potentials which are kept within us. And as these latent potentials keep manifesting, keep displaying their effects in the outer world, we will see that there will be a corresponding change taking place within our own self, within our own outlook. What a respectable and useful member of the community of humanity he will be, because he will be able to see all the problems in the world, and then he will do something about it in the light of the Quran. And if such an Iman, instead of being in a single individual, emerges in the heart of a Jamaat, and that is where the force comes in. One individual, when they join up with others, then it becomes a Jamaat, and then it becomes a force to be reckoned with. And then moving forward from a Jamaat, the majority of mankind comes towards this, then this world, which today has become an absolute hell due to a dearth of this Iman, will transform into such a paradise in which there will be an environment of peace and tranquility from every direction. And we all know that it is a gradual process, and Quran guides us. It says that first you acquire the knowledge and bring a change within your own self, and the change which comes within you will become an evidence for you to keep treading on this path. This is that objective for which the Quran repeatedly brings Allah's attributes to our attention with so much repetition and clarity, and emphasizes so greatly in having a strong Iman in them. Now the next slide is continuing on knowledge. What does it mean for Allah to be Aleem? A few more comments. We have seen that Allah being Aleem is to our immense advantage, and we need to view His being omniscient as a need for our self-development. Whatever we have discovered so far and all that is going to be discovered till the end of time on this planet is known to Allah. Now that is a fact which is put before us by the Quran. That don't think that Allah does not know about it. Allah already knows about it, and He knows that how things will develop in case human beings follow two different paths. All that people as human beings exhibit under the domain of unbridled intellect is known to Allah. And so should Mu'mineen know about it as well. If they have gone through the Quran and acquired its knowledge, a stage will come that what kind of a world human intellect will produce without the guidance of the Quran, and the example of that we can see in the word of 2025. He created us to have it manifested when we act without His guidance. So we shouldn't have any surprise. Rather, we should be prepared for that, because Quran has very clearly said how Iblis behaves. All that which humans are going to manifest when they are guided by the Quran is known to Allah in relation to this life and also in relation to the life of the hereafter. It means that we possess all those potentials which we require for this life and the life of the hereafter in this eye of ours. The extent to which the Quran has enticed us towards gaining knowledge and becoming the companion of Allah is given in this verse of Surah Al-Kahf. Say, if the ocean were ink wherewith to write out the words of my Rabb, sooner would the ocean be exhausted than would the words of my Rabb, even if we added another ocean like it for its aid. And this is the beauty over here, that we should reach that stage of understanding where we can say what my Rabb, that is what Allah has for human beings in this life if they follow that path. And not only at this, but in the next as well. What we need to do is, Wallahu yadu ila dar salam, but Allah does call to the home of peace. That is, become mu'mineen and then follow this path of Islam, which is outlined or signposted in the Quran. Next is synthesizing human knowledge and Wahi. Some people are under the impression that under the system of Deen, there will be less technological development. And since the commercial aspect of the market economy will be absent, there will not be much innovation as there is in the human systems. This is an incorrect view. And I've come across these kind of questions or doubts where people think that under the system of Deen, there will be probably less science and technology and less conveniences. That is not the right impression. That is not the right deduction from the Quran. Under the system of Deen, the development of technology will be directed towards creating conveniences for human life and for whole of mankind, for the use of everyone, so that everyone enjoys those conveniences and the system will be pleased about it. And research and development will form an essential part in the field of the sciences. Because under the system of Deen, both human self as well as the physical body are adequately catered for. There will also be research and development in the field of human psychology, which will be built on knowledge already acquired about the human psyche. The system of Deen will be fully cognizant of the scientific and technological developments of today and the future, as it will be predicated on this value. وَسَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا مِّنْهُ إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And he has subjected to you as from him all that is in the heavens and on earth. Behold, in that are signs indeed for those who reflect. And we can see that those nations which are making an effort on the science side, and of course they are not utilizing these for the good of everyone, but still they are making very big strides in the field of science and acquiring those kind of technologies which are changing the face of the earth. Whatever developments we witness in the world, these are meant to be like this, because human beings are invited to create from the resources provided, known and not yet known in the earth and beyond, for example, even in the space. This is in relation to the state in the physical domain. The domain of the self will bring those joys into human life which we simply cannot imagine within the man-made psyche. And that is important. We have seen that because human beings are very selfish and look after their own interest. And they want to minimize their own pain even at the cost of others and by taking away others' resources. And this mentality can only change by studying the Quran. Some fundamentals of the Quranic knowledge. In order to make correct decisions, we need information which is based on facts. Then we need to decide whether to go ahead and make a decision or not. And that depends on our choice. The Quran provides us with permanent values and tells us that when choices are made within these values, then the outcomes will always be those which will favor us in the long run, i.e., this includes the life of the hereafter. For example, for this it declares, Ar-Rahmanu Allama al-Quran. In order to acquire nourishment and development, he has provided the knowledge in the Quran. And this, we have gone through these two aspects previously as well. The Quran, when it says Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim, it is talking about two different scales. Under Ar-Rahman, there is emergent evolution taking place, very quick results, and we can get the results within one lifetime, within one human lifetime from the Quran if we make efforts as directed by the Quran. And that is why Allama al-Quran. If we want an emergent evolution taking place within the human world, then Quran is there to help us. Its knowledge will help us. Because the first stage of that knowledge is to come to terms with what is noted in the Quran. In order to acquire nourishment and development, he has provided the knowledge in the Quran. This knowledge is provided in the verse 9th of this surah, Allah tatgaw fil mizan, so that you do not transgress the balance. What is required to be done is wa'akimul wazna bil qiste wal tukhsirun al mizan. So establish weight with justice and fall not short in the balance. So that is the beauty that the Quran over here first said that Ar-Rahman Allama al-Quran, and then said that the parameter which we should keep in mind is the balance. That we should keep in mind that human beings must be treated according to these permanent values and establish the system with balance so that there is no injustice in the world. Since human emotions and desires taint his judgments, hence guided him by staging Allam al insana ma'alam yalam, taught man that which he knew not. This is after clarifying the potential he has, and Quran says, Wa allama Adam al asma'a kullaha, and he taught Adam the ability to characterize all things. That human beings acquire knowledge progressively, and same goes for the Quran, that we acquire the knowledge of the Quran progressively. We learn one permanent value, then we practice it, then we learn another one, we practice it, and then gradually we come to terms with all permanent values which are required for the system of deen, and at the same time, through practice and knowledge of all these permanent values, a tremendous change comes within our own self. Our outlook changes, and we will cover this aspect in our next presentation, that where human intellect is totally bewildered by the man-made system, the one on the path of Wahi, or those on the path of Wahi, they do not waver from that. They acquire that kind of a self which is fully focused, and they are 100% convinced that this path will take us there about which the Quran promises us. Some fundamentals of the Quranic knowledge and informed man about his emotive makeup and finite stay in the world. And we remember this verse, وَقُلْ نَهْبِتُوا بَعْضُكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوًّا وَلَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ مُسْتَقَرٌّ وَمَتَاعٌ إِلَىٰ حِينٍ. We said, get you down all with wedges between yourselves, that there will be enmity. So at a default position, there is going to be enmity and confrontation and clashes among human beings and differences, but they have to overcome it using the guidance of the Quran. On earth will your dwelling place and your means of sustenance for a time. And this is the beauty over here, mata'un ilahin. And we know mata means that only take that much which you require for that journey. And it is a finite living because of our physical body. And then this stage will hand us over to the next stage. Then it is clarified that guidance will be provided to deal with the issues arising from the unbridled intellect and emotions. قُلْ نَهْبِطُوا مِنْهَا جَمِيعًا فَإِمَّا يَأْتِيَنَّكُم مِّنِّي هُدًى فَمَن تَبِعَ هُدَايَ فَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. We said, get you down all from here, and if as is sure there comes to you guidance from me, whosoever follows through choice my guidance, on them shall be no fear nor shall they grieve. And then pointed to the true reality of human existence. وَلَقَدْ جِئْتُمُونَا فَرَادًا كَمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. And behold, you come to us alone as we created you for the first time. And this is the beauty of this verse. And we should go through the verses before and after that as well. That we come alone. As a child, we come alone. And there is no status, anything attached with that child. That child is neither rich nor poor. And it comes with a self. Even that child is not aware of its own gender. And then it lives that life, and Quran says that whatever you do between your birth and death is the one which you should take care of, and you are accountable for that. If you live your life under relative values, you will get a different self, and that self will have no life beyond death. That is, there will be nothing for it, because it hasn't developed into that self which it should have through its own choice. And that is where the responsibility of Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen comes in, that by developing their own self, they should come to terms with this new self, this new life which they have created within themselves, and make an effort and create a strong desire that they should work for the good of others as well. Here made it clear based on evidence that when a child comes into the world, it comes with a self that is with an I, with no mine or my with it. These become added through the man-made systems, and when the same human being dies, only the I goes forward, leaving behind all material associations. So all mine and my are left behind, even my body will be left behind, and I, that is myself, will go forward. And that is where Quran helps us to remain focused. Next slide is human beings acquire this progressively. In order to expand the horizon of our outlook, we need to acquire knowledge over a period of time, and the Quran guides us in this respect. So we need patience. We should never be impatient on this path and start being distracted that we are not doing enough. For example, we do hear this kind of sentences that through Islam is not doing enough. But through Islam, people on this path first have to develop their own self. And once they develop their own self, they will never say these things because they will understand that what kind of a self is required by the system of deen. So it requires a lot of patience and steadfastness and total 100% conviction that this Quran will take us to that destination about which it is promising us. And Quran has promised that all those who have Iman and do solid deeds and come together, they will be established in the land. It tells us that in order to commence our journey of exploring its guidance, we need to first, فَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ, whoever rejects Taghut, that is all man-made systems, come to terms with that. Even being the beneficiary of that system, we have to reject it intellectually, mentally, within our own self and say that I do not want this system, I want that system which the Quran has given us. And that is where the first step, accepts Iman in Allah, commences. This means that we need to have knowledge about the man-made systems and their weaknesses and limitations in order to expose ourselves to the system proposed by Allah in the Quran. Regarding this, the Quran tells us, سَنُرِيهِمْ آيَاتِنَا فِي الْآفَاقِ وَفِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَهُمْ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ. Soon will we show them our signs in the outer world and in their selves until it becomes manifest to them that this Quran is Al-Haq. And Al-Haq, as we know, means which produces constructive results. And over here, Quran says that keep following this path and you will see that gradually people will realize that what is given in the Quran is truth. And of course, the best way is to convince ourselves individually as well as all those who have come together to collectively become convinced that this is the path for us. And the signs are always there because as we come together, our hearts become united. When the hearts become united, that means the first stage of coming together has been accomplished. Now is to move forward and gain more knowledge about Wahi and the system itself. A supreme evidence-based reality, that is knowledge, is noted here, which tells us that if we wish to come to grips with the reality of our own creation and existence, then we can achieve this in a fairly short period of time, i.e., even within the finite physical time of our existence on the planet. It is all placed and explained in the Quran, and we are provided with that intellect which possesses all the latent potentials with to achieve it. This book is for us, that is لَقَدْ أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ كِتَابًا فِيهِ ذِكْرُكُمْ أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. We have revealed for you a book in which there is a message for you. And we know zikr also means that it is for our own eminence, the message which is for our own loftiness, for our own enhancement, that is to bring out our own latent potentials. Will you not then use your intellect to understand it? And over here, akal is used as a verb, that it is an action. So akal has to use akal itself. So that is the way we should go through it. Next is creating that desire to acquire it. And we know that without desire, nothing moves in our life. We have to have a desire and we also need to have a need for it. The Quran has repeatedly placed emphasis on the use of intellect and reasoning to gain knowledge. This is the way human intellect expands its horizons and enables itself to bring out its latent potentials. Part of this is to create the desire and need for the acquisition of knowledge, as it is through knowing that we are able to solve the issues of life and provide answers to all those questions which arise in our consciousness. And that is important, that not only we should gain knowledge of the Quran and have a strong desire, we should also enjoy it. We should also feel pleasure within us. And that feeling, that sentiment should be created within us, which means that I am on Allah's side, I am His companion, I am following this path by joining those who wish to establish the system of Deen, who are not happy with the system of Taghut. So, all these feelings we have to create our own self. In relation to knowledge which is made available to man in order to keep exploring both in this life as well as in the life of the hereafter, and we have gone through this verse before as well. Kul law kan al bahru midadan li kalimati rabbi la nafid al bahru qabla an tanfada kalimatu rabbi walau jena bimithlihi madada. That even if all the oceans become ink and all the, still the words of Allah will not end, and even if more is added to it. And this is very reassuring that our life is not meaningless. Our life is to gain more knowledge, and our intellect will keep expanding as we will learn more, and it costs nothing. For example, we are going through and sharing all this knowledge of the Quran, and also in today's world we got knowledge of man-made system on in our smartphones, and all of this is free. This verse also informs us that with the end of our physical life, our self will be exposed to a much wider world or universe, where all those potentials which we will not have been able to bring out, opportunities will appear for further development of these. This aspect is implicit in another verse, Lahum ma yashauna fiha wala daina mazid. They will get there whatever they wish, and we have got more for them. And this is a beautiful statement by the Quran, that desires have been created in us, and one of the desires is that we don't want to die, and the Quran is giving us that option that you will not die. You are not going to die. Nobody is going to die. Physical death is just a stage of this life handing over to the next life. And then it says that there are certain desires which you will come across in this world, but there is a far more in the next life, and for that we will help you to create more, and then you will go on to learning more and more. And we have got more for them. Here the Quran has pointed our attention to another aspect of knowledge which is linked to the development of the human self. Here Allah invites us to extract ourselves from the material aspect of our desires and expand our vision to include ourself, i.e. I and its development and the opportunities awaiting us in the life beyond this physical world. And the path of the Quran is asking us to imagine as much as possible. There's no harm that we extend our imagination by learning the Quran more and more, and develop those kind of nice feelings within us that we are not alone. On this path, Allah is with us. Huwa ma'akum aina ma kuntum, He said it. And that is very reassuring, because if we just think of the laws, it becomes very mechanical that Allah's laws are helping us. But the moment we say that together with these laws, Allah Himself is present and ensuring that we meet that success, but our job is first to learn as much of the Quranic knowledge as possible by being together as well as individually, so that our self keeps developing, and then that self which has developed becomes an evidence and provides us strength. Some aspects which are beyond human grasp without access to the Quran. The existence of the human self. And we can see around us that in the man-made system, the concept of self which is put forward by the Quran, most are not aware of it. There is a concept of psyche and self within the modern psychology, but all that is restricted to that kind of a self which will come to an end with death. وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهَ فَأَنْسَهُمْ أَنفُسَهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. And be not like those who forgot Allah and He made them forget their own selves, which essentially means that if we forget ourselves, then we will forget the development of ourselves, and for that development we need that concept of Allah which is given in the Quran. It's a very powerful verse in relation to self, and at some point we will expand it further. Such are fasiqun, and fasiq is the one when something does not reach its maturation. It does not reach its destination. It remains unripe. It remains immature and does not fulfill the purpose for which it is created. The concept of Allah is given over here, for example, in this verse, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum la ta'khuzuhu sinatum wa la nawm lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. Allah, there is no ilah but He, the living, the self-subsisting, eternal, free from slumber and sleep. All things in the heavens and the earth belong to Him. And this is the beauty over here. Particularly, we can concentrate at this stage on this Huwal Hayyul Qayyum. Allah Himself does not need the support to be alive. He is living and is always living. So He gives life. And that is where the beauty of our existence comes in, that He has given us life, and now through the Quran He wants us to acquire new life within us. But this time He's not giving us directly, but asking us to work for it and then enjoy this new life which we create within ourselves by creating a new self within the permanent values of the Quran. The functioning of the law of requital and its intrinsic link with the human self in all its aspects. وَكُلَّ إِنسَانٍ أَلْزَمْنَهُ طَائِرَهُ فِي عُنُقِهِ وَنُخْرِجُ لَهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ كِتَابًا يَلْقَهُ مَنْشُورًا. Every man's fate we have fastened around his neck. On the day of judgment we shall bring out for him a scroll which he will see spread open. And most human beings don't realize that they are being accountable for whatever they do. Because the moment we forget that we are not accountable or live life in ignorance, we are bound to keep making mistakes, and we will never be able to relate our deeds and their effects to ourself and its development. This accountability is so precise that Ikra kitabaka kafa binafsika al-yawma alayka hasiba. Read your own book. You are enough this day to take account of your own self. And that is the beauty of it, that once we leave this life and we are into the next life, we will never be able to say that we have been treated unjustly, because the whole scroll which will be in front of us, that is within our consciousness, will tell us that where did we go wrong and where the message was given to us but we ignored it. Or even if we had come to the Quran but we left the message thinking that it is all about the tales of the ancient, and this message cannot take us to that success to which it promises us. And that is something which we should keep in mind. And this is important to explain to others as well, that this life is only one-way street and nobody comes back, and we should not be distracted by all the nonsense which is going on in the world, or that is the human world, and remain focused on it. About human intrinsic respect and dignity, which is there due to choice and intent, because Quran says walaqad karamna bani adama, and we know it is a permanent value as well. We have honored the children of Adam, and we should keep this in mind as far as our own self is concerned, as well as others. And that is why we will never transgress others, and we will never disrespect them and treat them with any undignified manner. Not creating a Quranic vision leads to this. وَمَنْ كَانَ فِي هَذِهِ أَعْمَى فَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ أَعْمَى وَضَلَّ سَبِيلًا. But those who are blind here will stay blind in the hereafter, and most are astray from the path. What is the human blindness in this case? That is to keep following the path of ancestors, never to question our own creation, never question the problems in the world, never question the existence of yatim and miskeen around us, never question that why are we here and what is the purpose of death. Is it to the life that we just die and disappear with no purpose? Because we are given intellect and reasoning power, and we should use them. And we have all those emotions which we know, some of them which we shared earlier. All these emotions are there for a purpose. So we should understand our own value, and that is where this thing comes in, Karramna Bani Adama, that we should be kind to our own self and understand our own value. Next slide is some more aspects beyond the reach of the human intellect. The emergence of non-biological affinity. Innamal mu'minuna ikhwatun. The mu'mineen are but a single brotherhood. It then tells us about the process to acquire this unity of hearts. Now, this took me quite a long time to put down all these points in this slide, and this is something we should keep in mind that initially we come to this life as under biological relationships, but over here Quran is asking us to grow out of these biological relationships, and this should be the function of that creation of new life within us, that we grow out of this biological relationship and then develop that affinity with those who are on this path as companions of Allah. And the that is the time when that feeling develops within us. That means we have grown out of that biological affinities with which we were born, and we have understood that this new life, what it means. And that is where then we start seeing those issues to which Quran is drawing our attention to. Unity of hearts through Iman predicated on the Quran. And we know about this verse previously as well, but it's good to go through it again. وَاتَعْصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. That means there are differences and dissonances within us, and if we manage to overcome those and hold the rope extended through the Quran by Allah, then what will happen is, and hold fast all together and be not divided, what will be its benefit? وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ. This is the beautiful part of this verse, that they all had that ada, they had wedges, they had differences, they had conflicts with each other. What happened was that their hearts were united. And all these differences we know exist at biological level. Parents have differences with children, children have differences with each other, then the society, and then the nations, and then in the world, which is conflict ridden. For example, today's world, we can see that. And remember the favor of Allah, for you were enemies and He joined your hearts. And this is where we should pause and think that what price, what value we will put on this coming together of hearts, which is far above the biological relationships. And the beauty and the joy of this, that one is on the right path, and that assurance from the Quran that you are on the right path. Keep moving forward, don't leave, keep holding on to Hablallah, that is the rope of Allah. And then Quran says, وَقُلْ نَهْبِتُوا بَعْضُكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوًّا. We said, get you down all with enmity between yourselves. And this is I just put it down over here because the same word with the same root has appeared in both these verses. That the default position of human beings is, because they are emotive, they don't use their intellect within the guidance of the Quran. As a result, they keep fighting and quarreling with each other. About the joy of the unity of hearts, it is stated, فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِهِمْ لَوْ أَنْفَقْتَ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا مَا أَلَّفْتَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ أَلَّفَ بَيْنَهُمْ إِنَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. I don't know if when I have gone through these verses a number of times, there is something which words can't find. I can't find the words to express them. But anyway, let me go through its translation. And He has put affection between their hearts. Not if you had spent all that is in the earth, could you have produced that affection. But Allah has done it, for He is Aziz and Hakim. I think in our own time we should go through it and extend our imagination and our thought process to what Allah is trying to tell us, and then feel that joy and happiness which comes after acquiring Iman and then joining hearts with those who also have Iman. And this is what should be the aim of Tolu Islam and its platform as well, that those who have come together should develop this kind of a feeling within them, where they are attracted by those who are on this path. This knowledge we simply cannot find anywhere in human literature. Only Allah could reveal it to us, and once we begin to follow it, the outcome itself becomes evidence of its being the truth. Because once that affection develops, that means the first obstacle we have overcome. That is, our biological affinities have now gone down a bit and higher affinity has taken birth. The question we need to ask is, have I got that Iman which has given me that affinity which is noted here? And I will cover this under the permanent value of aesthetic as well, that what human beings have within themselves which they need to display in the outer world as mu'mineen. Defining scales, micro to mega. And over here, what I've done is, again, I've taken a slide from one of my previous presentations. Light serves two purposes. It makes to see things clearly, and where this light is, there is no darkness, i.e. absence of light is darkness, the Quran is light. So presently there is no light of Wahi anywhere in the world. Of course, it is with individuals of Tolu Islam, but as a system it is not there. So as a result, we find this darkness. So this is going from micro to mega scale. And this is a mega scale. And if we come to this man-made light, which of course we have created by using the resources given in the earth, and then to this natural one, and we can see, Ya ayyuhan nasu qad ja'akum burhanum min rabbikum wa anzalna alaykum nuram mubina. I quoted this verse. I thought this may be able to, we can imagine that what it means, that all this mega scale on which Quran, Allah has created this planet as part of the solar system and the wider galaxies, and drawn our attention in various ways in the Quran to motivate us that don't waste your life. This life is finite and there is far more waiting for you beyond your physical death. And over here, all of us, let's say plus Quran. And Quran says, Allahu waliyul lazina amanu yukhrijuhum minal zulumati ilan nur, that become the Wali of Allah, that is, become the companion of Allah. And if you have Iman, He will bring you out of all these darknesses which man-made system has created, and will bring you into the light, and then this light will keep multiplying ahead of you. Thanks for your time and for sharing this today. Please feel free to share it with your contacts. You may like to subscribe for future talks related to the Quranic system of Deen.